all those surgeries, the doctors are just banging me with these pills.
Hulk Hogan once said that the doctors were the ones who broke his body. After his death, fans did not hold back, blaming the very people who were supposed to save him. Those who fans now call killers have stepped forward, revealing shocking details about Hogan's final moments. What Hulk Hogan truly said before he died has left the world stunned. The wrestling world was forever changed on July 24, 2025, when the news broke that sent shockwaves through generations of fans who had grown up chanting, "What you gonna do, brother?" Hulk Hogan, born Terry Gene Bollea, passed away at the age of 71 from cardiac arrest at his home in Clearwater, Florida. What the world did not immediately know was the deeply personal and emotional story of his final conversations and last words, which revealed the real man behind the mustache, the bandana, and the larger-than-life persona that had captivated millions. The morning of July 24, 2025, began like any other in Clearwater, Florida, but it became the day that changed how the world remembered one of its most iconic figures. Paramedics tried to revive him for over 30 minutes, but he was pronounced dead at Morton Plant Hospital at 11:17 a.m. on July 24, 2025. Before his death, Hulk Hogan had been increasingly open about the devastating physical toll his wrestling career had taken on his body.
Back surgeries, but the thing is, my knees and my hips are so old now. I had the left knee scoped 3 or 4 times, the right knee scoped 3 or 4 times, then I had them replaced. Then I had the hips replaced, and they're all...
The wrestling icon revealed that he had undergone at least 25 to 26 surgeries in a single decade, including 10 back surgeries, multiple knee and hip replacements, shoulder reconstructions, and several procedures on his eyes and abdomen. Hogan openly discussed how the rough and primitive ring conditions of the 1970s and 1980s contributed to his growing list of injuries, describing them as 22-foot boxing rings with lumps and boards sticking up. He expressed particular regret over his signature atomic leg drop move, admitting that it had severely damaged his spine and wishing he had chosen a less physically demanding finisher like a sleeper hold. Perhaps most revealing were Hogan's claims of medical malpractice, which he brought to light through legal action and public statements. In 2013, he filed a $50 million lawsuit against the Laser Spine Institute, alleging that the facility had performed unnecessary and botched surgeries that further damaged his body and cost him millions in potential earnings. Hogan also shared his struggles with failed back surgery syndrome, including a 2010 spinal cord stimulator implantation that not only failed to provide relief but caused excruciating pain requiring emergency rehospitalization. He was also honest about his use of steroids during wrestling's golden era in the 1980s, acknowledging this during legal testimony and recognizing the long-term health risks, including the cardiovascular issues that may have contributed to his declining health in his final years. Hogan was surrounded by loved ones at the time of his death. A statement on his official Instagram account confirmed, "This wasn't a lonely death in a hospital room. This was a man surrounded by the people who mattered most to him," making the mystery of his final words all the more poignant and meaningful. The story of Hogan's last words is not just about what he said in his final moments, but about the complex web of relationships, regrets, and reconciliations that shaped his final months on Earth.
I was at the lowest point of my life. My personal life was destroyed. I was very mad at my daughter. I was upset over...
It's a story that begins not with his death, but with the conversations that haunted him, the words left unspoken, and the desperate attempts to rebuild bridges burned by years of family turmoil and personal struggle. To understand the weight of Hogan's final conversations, one must first recognize the fractured state of his family relationships in his last days. Despite his hopes of reconciling with his estranged daughter Brooke, Hogan had not spoken to her for 8 years, a source of deep heartbreak and regret in his final months.
I was to the point where I wanted to kill myself. I sat in my bathroom by myself when my ex-wife was gone and the kids were gone, and I was completely broken and destroyed. And I said, what's the easiest way out of this?
This estrangement was not just a simple family disagreement. It was a widening chasm that deepened with each passing year, leaving the wrestling legend burdened with one of his greatest regrets. The most significant and emotionally charged of Hogan's final conversations took place not in his dying moments but months earlier, in September 2023. According to sources close to Brooke Hogan, her last conversation with her father occurred 2 weeks before his marriage to Sky Daly. This was no ordinary phone call between a father and daughter. It was a conversation heavy with 8 years of silence, pain, and the fragile hope of reconciliation. During this pivotal exchange, Brooke expressed concern for her father's health, urged him to stop overworking, and told him she loved him. Hogan reportedly apologized to her, though the specific reason for the apology was never disclosed. The weight of this moment cannot be overstated. Here was a man who had faced the biggest names in professional wrestling and stood before crowds of 90,000 people without fear, breaking down and apologizing to his daughter for reasons known only to them. This conversation was deeply meaningful, bringing Brooke a sense of peace despite their long estrangement. The fact that she found comfort in her father's words speaks volumes about the sincerity and emotion behind them. It was not the scripted dialogue of a wrestling promo or the rehearsed lines of a reality show. It was Terry Bollea, the man behind the legend, speaking from his heart to the daughter he had lost along the way.
Should have disowned me. It should have been her. You know, she should have been the one. She should have been the one to throw me out like the trash, but instead she showed me more.
The cruel irony of this situation becomes even more apparent when we learn how Brooke discovered her father's death. She learned of it through a text message from her brother, Nick, sent to her husband, Stephen Alexi. Imagine the heartbreak of learning about your father's passing, not through a phone call, not from the media, but through a forwarded message from family. It underscored the depth of the family's estrangement and the irreversible loss of time that could never be reclaimed. But Hogan's final conversations were not limited to his strained relationship with Brooke. His son Nick, who had maintained a much closer bond with his father, offered a different perspective on Hogan's final days. Following his father's death, Nick shared a heartfelt tribute, describing Hogan as his hero, mentor, and best friend. While he did not explicitly reveal his father's final words, his message reflected their deep connection and the time they had spent together, painting a picture of a father who, despite his flaws, remained devoted to at least one of his children. Their relationship carried particular meaning in Hogan's final days. Nick's tribute suggested that their last moments together were filled with warmth and mutual respect, including a karaoke night with Jimmy Hart just 2 days before Hogan's passing. What might seem trivial to outsiders, a simple evening of singing and laughter, was, in truth, a beautiful memory of a father and son sharing genuine joy only 48 hours before everything changed forever. Conversations with Hogan's longtime friends revealed an equally complex picture of his final state of mind. Jimmy Hart, his close friend and former manager, called him on July 23, 2025, the day before his death. When Hart spoke with Hogan's assistant, he was told that Hogan was doing great. Hart's reply was simple but heartfelt, "Well, tell him I love him." In his last days, Hogan also remained deeply involved in his business ventures, offering a glimpse into his professional mindset before his passing. On July 22, 2025, he expressed optimism about his Real American Freestyle Wrestling project, saying, "Real American Freestyle is creating something that's never been done before, and we needed a partner who understood that and could grow with us. Fox Nation is synergistic with our brand. They value bringing this sport to the masses and believe in our mission." These words, spoken just 2 days before his death, may well have been among Hulk Hogan's final public statements, a reflection of a man still dreaming, still building, and still believing until the very end.
Well, there's a couple Americans there that Trump loves that we've been talking business with, so...
Oh, wrestlers-wise. WWE.
WWE, okay.
Is there any wrestlers that...
No,
In what would turn out to be one of his final interviews, Hogan's passion for the wrestling business remained unmistakable. His enthusiasm when talking about young talent and the future of the sport proved that, despite his personal struggles and the physical toll his career had taken, his love for wrestling never faded. "You've got to outthink the office," he said, a line that captured both his competitive spirit and his lifelong dedication to the business that defined him.
outthink the office, you got to outthink the business, you got to outthink the company. And once you get on that level, you've got to make your own.
An insider reported that Hogan, aware that his time was limited due to ongoing heart complications, was focused on settling old scores and saying goodbye to estranged loved ones, though he was ultimately unable to reconcile with his daughter Brooke. Eric Bischoff, Hogan's longtime friend and business partner, visited him roughly 2 weeks before his passing. Bischoff described Hogan as appearing noticeably weak during that visit, his decline evident not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Hogan's wife, Sky Daly, worked tirelessly to protect his privacy and dignity in his final days. She denied unfounded rumors and carefully managed public perception of his health, demonstrating a deep understanding of both the global icon the world adored and the private man she loved. The timing of Hogan's death added yet another layer of tragedy. Jimmy Hart noted the abruptness of his friend's passing, saying, "It all happened overnight, but he seemed so positive the day before." To truly understand what kind of person Hulk Hogan was, we must look beyond the headlines and dive deeper into the man behind the mustache. When people think of professional wrestling, one name towers above all others: Hulk Hogan. His story began in 1977, not with the familiar sound of real American echoing through packed arenas, but in the humid wrestling territories of Florida, where a young Terry Bollea was grinding through small shows under forgettable names like Super Destroyer and Terry Boulder. These were the gritty early days of wrestling, long before guaranteed contracts, luxury travel, and multi-million-dollar deals. Wrestlers drove hundreds of miles for $20 paydays, often sharing cramped motel rooms just to make ends meet. The transformation from Terry Bollea to Hulk Hogan reads like the origin story of a comic book hero. The name Hulk came after an appearance on a television show alongside Lou Ferrigno, the star of The Incredible Hulk. Hogan's massive frame dwarfed even Ferrigno's, prompting the comparison that would shape his identity forever. WWE owner Vince McMahon later suggested the surname Hogan, crafting an Irish-American persona that soon evolved into something even larger, an embodiment of American heroism and charisma. But Hogan's rise to superstardom was far from smooth. After an initial run with the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, in 1979, he spent time in the American Wrestling Association, AWA, and New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he captured the original IWGP Heavyweight Championship. These years were crucial in shaping the magnetic, larger-than-life character that would soon dominate the global stage, a combination of sheer physical power, infectious charisma, and an almost supernatural ability to connect with audiences. When Hogan returned to the WWF in 1983, the industry would never be the same. His all-American hero persona didn't just captivate fans, it ignited Hulkamania, a cultural explosion that transcended wrestling and swept through pop culture like wildfire. The defining moment came in 1984 when Hogan defeated the Iron Sheik to win the WWF Championship. This was more than a title win, it was the dawn of modern sports entertainment. Hogan would hold that championship for over 4 years, the second longest reign in its history, during which he evolved from wrestling star to global icon. The numbers from this era remain staggering. He headlined 8 of the first 9 WrestleManias, helping transform Vince McMahon's risky vision into one of the most successful entertainment franchises of all time. The pinnacle came at WrestleMania 3 in 1987, where his match against Andre the Giant drew a record 93,173 fans, a moment so monumental it remains etched in wrestling history. Even more impressive were his television numbers. His 1988 match on the main event drew 33 million viewers in the United States, a record that stands as one of the most watched wrestling broadcasts in history. This was not just wrestling, it was event television that united families across America. Then, in 1996, Hogan shocked the world once again by reinventing himself as the villainous Hollywood Hogan, leading the New World Order, NWO, alongside Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. The heel turn was revolutionary. Fans who had idolized him for years suddenly turned on him, throwing garbage into the ring in disbelief. That moment of betrayal became the emotional foundation for WCW's most successful era. During his WCW run, Hogan captured the WCW Championship 6 times, including the longest reign in the title's history. He headlined Starrcade multiple times, with the 1997 event standing out as one of the most profitable in the company's history. Yet even amid that success, controversy followed. His infamous creative control clause, allowing him to dictate match outcomes, led to growing tension among peers. The most infamous example came in 2000, when Hogan refused to lose to Jeff Jarrett, leading to an explosive on-air confrontation with writer Vince Russo. The fallout contributed to WCW's decline and eventual collapse. Beneath all the fame, however, Hogan's personal life was beginning to unravel. The man who once seemed larger than life was facing battles far away from the spotlight, battles that would define the final chapters of his extraordinary story.
Racist to a point.
Are you a racist?
No, I'm not. I'm not a racist. I never should have said what I said. It was wrong. I'm embarrassed by it. But a lot of people need to realize that you inherit things from your